Miniature Market has thousands of board games at discounted prices. Click the direct link below to see all of those discounted games. Hello my friends, it's the Game Boy Geek here. Rubber ducky, you're the one. Today we're talking about ducks, and today we're taking a look at Duck and Cover, a little filler game from Captain Games that got a lot of buzz at the end of last year from Essen. Finally got a chance to play it. Let me show you how it works. I'll see you on the other side. In Duck and Cover, it can be played with up to 7 players. Each player is going to get their own deck of duck cards, and each of these cards have the same numbers on them, but they're all different themes. For example, you have space, and you have royalty, and sort of Halloween, and pirates, and desserts and food, and historical figures, and entertainment figures and such, and each of these decks have the cutest art. Let's take a closer look at some of these. For example, here are some entertainment-based characters. And here's some historical characters. So each player is going to shuffle their deck and make a 3x4 grid, and so that the numbers are randomized 1 through 12 throughout the whole thing. So it might look something like this. Now, the object of the game is 3 rounds long. You're trying to have the least amount of points. And at the end of the round, if you have all your cards stacked into one stack, it's fantastic. That's the best thing. This would actually be the best round ever because the 12 card is worth 5 points. But it's negative 5 points. You want to have the least amount of points if it's in one stack. Where if it was a single stack with the number 5, you'd get -2 points, not quite as good. And if it was in one stack and it was the number 1, well, it'd be 0 points, not positive, not negative. However, if you have even more than one stack, any amount of them, then you look at the points on the top and you add them up. So it's 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. That's positive 8. That's not good. You want negative points. So you can see you're trying to, if they're going to be in multiple stacks, you want them to be the lower numbers on top. But if you're going to get them in one single stack, you want a higher number on top to be more negative. So it's kind of a press your luck there. Now this game is kind of like bingo. Now, I actually did a whole series called Reimagined Classic Retro Board Games, where I showed how older games are being made into new games. Bingo was one of the games I covered. This would have been a great one to add to that list because this is like bingo. One player is going to be the captain. They're going to shuffle this deck, and there's 2 of each number in this deck and some special cards. And they're going to say 10. Now, this is for everybody. Everybody's going to take their 10 card, if they can see it, and do one of 2 things with it. One of it is you can move it orthogonal, not diagonal. So I can move it on top of the 12, on top of the 5, on top of the 9, or on top of the 8. Let's say I want to move this here. Why do I do that? Well, maybe I'm going to try to go for a high negative. I want to keep this there. So there we go. The other thing you could do, let's say the next card is drawn, and let's say it's a 3. So I can move my 3 on top of the 9 or on top of the 8. The other thing you can do is to move into any empty space without covering any other card. So I could move this to any empty space, and that could be out on the outsides of everything, here or here or here, or I can move it like here. Why would you do that? Sometimes you're trying to fill in holes to give yourself more options for other cards. Now, let's say a 5 comes up. Well, guess what? We already covered our 5. We don't get to do anything. And I say quack. Now, if all the players quack, meaning none of them have a 5, this card gets discarded to a discard area, and this is out of the round. These are face up. Everyone can see which ones are completely not in the game anymore, and then another card is drawn. Now the cards that are used by anyone, even one person, get set aside into what's called the captain's pile. If this pile ever gets reduced all the way to nothing and no one has ended the round, then you shuffle the captain cards. The discarded ones, the ones that nobody played, those stay out. Another important thing is the captain pile, the ones that people are being used that are almost like its own discard pile. These are all stacked on top of each other, so there is a bit of a memory element in that. But oddly enough, the discard area, the cards that can't be shuffled back in, you can see. So this just keeps going. We're going to go like this, and then look at that. There's a special card. And that's repeat the last card. Well, if it was a 5, I get to do nothing. Everyone else gets to move their 5 again. There's another special card. Your highest card. Everyone looks at what the highest card. Mine's a 12. Maybe I go something like this. I cover that 1. Hey, I lucked out. 12 came out again. Now, what do I want to do with this 12? Do I want to cover the 11? Do I want to cover the 10? Or do I want to maybe move it somewhere else? Maybe I go over here and I cover the 11. Well, the 10's drawn. Maybe I take this and you take the whole stack and I cover the 2. And again, everyone is doing this simultaneously. I do an 11, guess what? Quack. Oh, nobody else had an 11? This goes to the discard area. Now, this discard area is important because depending on the amount of players, once a certain amount of cards gets there, the round ends. Anywhere between 9 cards and 4 cards, whether you're playing with 2 players or up to 7 players, respectively. So if we're playing a 3-player game, there needs to be 8 of these, for example, to end the round. So say the next card's a 6. I can move this 6 on top of the 7, on top of the 10, or move it somewhere else. Maybe I move it here to start shrinking things down, but keeping things more orthogonally adjacent to each other. Now, as I'm doing that, it's prolonging my round to hopefully get 1 stack, but you have to look around what other players are doing, because if players have less and less numbers, then they're more apt to quack, which means if everyone quacks, it goes to the discard area, which means the round could end early. So you're trying to gauge when you think the round might end with your strategies of, do I want to try to just get everything stacked into one pile, or am I okay trying to get the lowest numbers on top of piles because I think I'm going to score positively by having more than 1 stack? So now I drew a 9. Interesting. Do I want to cover the 3, leaving this 4 out here all by itself? Do I want to cover the 4, leaving the 9 and the 4 out by itself? Or do I want to maybe move this here to, again, try to give more possibilities, being able to, let's say I know both 9s have been done. 9's not going to move again this round, but there's been no 4s yet. So maybe I do that because then when the 4 comes up, I can cover that 9, or I can move it here. And again, I'm trying to shrink things down and keep things, give me as many options as possible. So maybe it's a little further along, and I come down here, and I've got, a 12, and maybe I could just move this 12 here. That's great. Now, at this point, I'm really trying to get just 1 pile, because if I don't, it's going to be 5, plus 3 is 8, plus 2 is 10 points, and I don't like that. So I'm trying to get things down. But as you get things down, more and more chances you're not going to be able to move, and you've got to pay attention to what other players are doing. Look at that. That would have been 2 quacks in a row. And if all players quack, these would have went to the discard pile, possibly ending the round. Ooh, another one quack, but 1 player is able to place so that you stay alive. And let's say, oh wow, everyone quacked again. I'm left for 3 piles. Ho-hum, 10 points. Not good. I was trying to get those there, but again, you got to pay attention to what people are doing. That's pretty much what you do. That's the end of the round. You shuffle all the cards back together, and you do this for 2 more rounds, and whoever has the least amount of points wins. Now, I do want to mention that there are a ton of variants on the publisher's website. You can play with rules for more competition, rules for more madness, more constraints, more pressure, more surprises, more competition. And it has all these rules on different ways to play the game. And so you can really sort of make this game be what your group wants it to be. All right, duck and cover. This one had quite a bit of buzz at the end of Essen last year because it came out there from Captain Games. Captain Games usually does like little party games, and they tend to do really good games. And this one I was really interested in because of how well people had received it just after Essen, and I like little filler games. So let's take a look. First of all, of course, thing to love in this is the absolutely adorable and unique art for each player. They could have easily just had one little set of ducks that all looked as adorable as this, that just said, hey, everyone gets this set of ducks, and they all look the same. All 12 numbers are different. I could have seen some publishers would have made that mistake and just cheapened down on the amount of expenses for the art and just got the game out there. I love that they have different sets, and I bet you if they made more sets and sold them as sort of like promo packs or extra sets, I bet you people who are fans of this game would buy some of those. Who knows? Maybe they make a second printing of this and they completely change the ducks, right? I love it. It's just so adorable. It's so cool. There's actually a lot of forums out there, forum posts about people saying, hey, I know, let's make a forum about what every single one of these ducks are and who they are. And people are going fanatic about it. So it's really cute. I love this game. Has simple rules, but great depth. It's like, hey, here's a number. We're playing bingo. And as I mentioned in that overview, you know that if you like this, I should have put this on this my bingo review. I recently did I'm doing a whole series right now actually called Retro Classic Reimagined Retro Classic Board Games. I'm looking at old classics and then talking about modern day games that use those mechanisms. Bingo was one of the games that I covered in that series, and someone commented like, hey, why did you put duck and cover on that? I went, you know what? You're right. I missed it. Because this is basically bingo. This is gamer bingo, or family bingo, I should say, with some more strategy. And even though the simple rules like numbers called, I'm either gonna, if I have the duck, I'm gonna move it orthogonally and stack it on top of something, or I'm gonna move it to an empty spot. That's it, and the whole stack moves too, if that's the case. It's so easy, but yet there's lots of depth as to what are you going for? Am I trying to just get a small amount of positive points, or am I going for that one stack? Do I want the negative points? And depending on what I'm going for, you have to look at what other players are doing, because as people get less cards, more apt for quacks. If everyone quacks, it goes to the discard. You know how many discard cards ends the round. And so you have this sort of tension building as to, hey, I was going for one stack and I've been going for a lot of high numbers. Oh no, now I need to sort of cover them with lower numbers, because now I know I'm probably not going to finish it. But I've stacked them over a lot of the lower numbers. I might need to pivot halfway through, stuff like that. I like the span of points scales with the card number. So like the 1 is 0 points and the 12 is 5 points. It just gives you that sort of design space and that agency as what to go for. A little bit of pressure luck. Best is to have that 12 on its own, right? But it's hard to do. If I get a 1 on its own, it's still great, 0 points, right? But if I screw up going for the 12, it's positive 5 points, which I don't want. So it's very interesting. It gives you that design space gives the player so much agency in such a simple game. The press your luck strategies is fun. It's fun to sort of press your luck a little bit, trying to go for the big win. It doesn't always happen. You won't get down to one stack every round. It's kind of hard to do. So I like that, you've got the more conservative, leaving more cards uncovered, or aggressive, trying to end with high numbers. I like that there's that two things there. I like that you're manipulating the end of the round by getting one stack, because if you get it down to one stack, obviously it ends the round, but that's another thing that I like it when players have agency over when something ends, and by stacking it, it ends the round, and you can possibly see that coming. You can look around and go, oh, that person has 2 cards left, and one, if either the 5 or the 11 come out, oh, and by the way, one of them are still in that draw pile. I like being able to sort of make the round end on other people and kind of screw them over. I like you're trying to think about where to move and when to move and where to move. Do I want to stack this one, or do I want to just move it to an empty spot? Trying to branch together more options, as I showed you in that. I like that. It's really clever. I like the variant options. I typically don't like it when I usually enjoy a variant or 2. This one has like 8 variants, and on the back side of that page I showed in the overview, there's like 3 more on there that I didn't even like go over in detail. I typically don't like it when a game has a million variants. It's kind of like, most of the time I'm like, apparently this game was in development for a long time. You found different ways to play the game that you think some people might like all these. You went with the one which is the market you're trying to serve for the price you're trying to serve it, and you know who your target market is for this game, but here's 8 other ways to play in case you're not that person. I typically don't like that, because I'm like, just tell me how to play the game. Tell me your best shot, and I'll tell you if I like it or not. In this one, I kind of like the ones on the front side. Half of those are like, whatever. Hey, the last round's doubled. Meh. Stuff like that. But on the back side, there's actually like completely different ways of playing the game, where you actually have like a hand of cards, and you're playing one of those cards on your turn, and that's the number for everybody. So you have some forward thinking and some forward planning and numbers you don't want to cover and this and that. That's really interesting. It kind of takes it from like a simple, light, pressure luck, lucky family game into like a more strategic gamer game, and that I like. I can live with some of these other little ones, but I do like that there's some variant options to make the game more gamery for those that want to do that. I don't have a lot negative here to say, except that I found it strange that the discard pile, the cards that don't get shuffled back in if the draw deck runs out, is open for everyone to see all the cards. But the captain pile, which is essentially the discard pile for the cards that are gonna get shuffled back in, are not. They're just stacked, and you have to remember, you can only see the one that's on top. I don't like that. You remove the memory element for the discarded cards, but you leave it for the captain cards. I don't get it. You should either say, we're gonna have memory element a part of this game, or we're not. Not like half of the cards you don't have to remember, half of them you have to remember. I don't like that decision at all. Personally, I play this game with taking that memory element out, and the captain pile is also, you can see which cards are in there. Stack them so you can overlay the numbers so you can see. Because that's part of the strategy is, hey, 111, how many 11s have come out already? I don't remember. Did both of them come out or one of them come out? I mean, I guess if you're paying close attention, you should remember that, but when you're doing that with like 4 or 5 numbers, it's kind of hard to remember all that. So I don't like this half memory element in the game, so I just remove it, honestly, for me. I don't typically house rule things, but takes this game from like a 6 to me up to an 8. That's my only negative. So if you're looking for a short, little cute, adorable filler game that can be played super casually, but with some variance, be played with some have a little more teeth to the game with some gamers, then you definitely want to check out Duck and Cover. This has been the Game Boy Geek, breaking down barriers, growing relationships with board games, and helping you find the next one you love. Game Toppers upgrades every game you play, and they just launched their 4.5 Kickstarter, which will introduce the new Galactic, Mycroft, and Watson Game Toppers with interchangeable rail inlays, as well as new game mats, miniature gaming terrain packs, leg kit options, dining covers, accessories, and amazing package deals. Search for Game Toppers on Kickstarter or go to GameToppersLLC.com.